thank you guys for coming to the Real Twin Peaks Rancho Rosa panel. The gigantic group of people here before you, we're all crazy enough to travel to the Snoqualmie Valley in 2015 to try to catch a glimpse of David Lynch directing some scenes from Twin Peaks Revival. I guess we have some photos, we're getting that sorted out, but while we do that, I think we're gonna go down the line and talk about where we're from and how far we came, maybe why, how many days we stayed to watch, and then we'll get into the details from there.
So my name's Melissa, and I at the time lived in Marysville, Washington, which is just about an hour, a little more than an hour north of here. So I've come down here on my days off, which are 2 days a week, and just watch the filming. And then of course when they filmed in Everett, I was 10 minutes away, so that was awesome.
Hi, I'm Kristen. At the time of filming, I lived in Pennsylvania, so I traveled all the way across the country for like only I think 3 days. But yeah, it was a lot, but it was amazing.
My name's Vinny. I came up from Sacramento, California on maybe a week's notice, maybe a couple days. It was very, very sudden. Maybe not even a week. It was sudden enough to where I forgot to pack any clothes, and I slept in my jeans for the entire 3 days, 4 nights or something that I was here. No regrets.
My name's Anita, and I am also from the Sacramento area, but at the time, Vinny and I did not know each other at all. I think we'd been to a fest together, but didn't even have a conversation or anything. What's that?
I don't even think I realized.
Yeah. This experience, though, I think bonded us like nobody's business. Like it really did. But like Vinny said, it was probably a couple of days, few days notice. We knew things were going on. We were jumping out of our skin, and right. Not only do I not have any regrets, it was such an affirming experience of, this is crazy. You're gonna drop everything and go for the possible chance to see a little bit of something, even when you were being really discouraged by a lot of the things. Social media posts were very discouraging of anybody trying to see any filming. Well, our people that were here were reassuring us that no, they are welcoming of people watching filming. You can come. So like, this is crazy. Okay, let's just drop everything and do it. And I can't even imagine if I didn't do that, because it was incredible. It was an incredible experience from beginning to I stayed about a week or so, maybe. I even tried to sneak it a little longer, but in that week, I got to see, it was just amazing. But,
Hi, my name's Eric. At the time, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I came up on a whim too. Vinny posted on Facebook, does anybody want to go up and watch Dave Lynch film in Twin Peaks? And I was like, sure, I didn't even know him at the time, really. Yeah, I'll go up and hang out with somebody I don't really know and watch some filming. Yeah, I have no regrets. I live in Maine now. So it was quite a travel lead out here for us, but I do it almost every year. Like 4 days, 3-4 days.
My name is Mary. I had just recently moved to Snoqualmie when filming started. I actually moved to Snoqualmie just a couple of weeks before they announced that the return was happening. So that kind of blew my mind. And I obviously was here for all 6 weeks. And I did not see everything, but I saw a good portion of it because I was a really neglected neglectful mother for 6 weeks. But it was amazing. And I also want to note that a good percentage of the audience was also at filming. So if any of you want to jump in at any point and add something, that would be amazing. Oh, also a good percentage of people in this room also stayed at my house during that time. Much to at the same time, people sleeping on my floors. My husband was like, wait, who is that? I'm like, don't worry about it, it's fine.
If I could just add really quickly, the pictures that you see are taken by all of us. As we were very, very careful not to post anything on social media. So we had a small group of us and we shared photos that we took. Just being really careful not to actually post anything that would give away any clues or and this is just like a sampling of everybody's home.
Yeah, we were respectful. There was one person who wasn't, but it's fine, it's fine.
I'm Ethan. I just came and jumped in here like the jerk that I am. But even though I was there and I was excited to, but I was just like, I didn't tell anyone. I'm just gonna show them and see what they ever tell. But I was there with this group who I love very much and miss all the time. And I was living in Philadelphia at the time, so similarly from across the country. But I also had a weird flight benefit hooked up for the job, so it was much easier for me, not as complicated for me to drop everything and fly out here. But I should have still stayed and worked and affect myself. But I was like, are you kidding me? I can't miss the opportunity to see David Lynch filmed in Twin Peaks with my wonderful friend who just moved to town and said, please come crash on the floor and come watch David Lynch film. I was like, of course. And yeah, absolutely no regrets there, and continue to get no regrets. This was a good experience with all that time. It was so good. I think it's 5 days, I think. 5 days every day. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm from Portland, Oregon, so this was a pretty quick trip for me this time. And back then, I was here for about 3 days as well, the same as most of the people that came in from out of town, all staying with Mary. It was a lot of fun, not much sleep, a lot of theorizing, looking through our photos and trying to figure out what the heck was going on during those 3 days. I really wanted to come back to see more, but I couldn't make it work with my work schedule.
Hello, I'm Phoenix. I came up for 4 or 5 days, although I think the last day it was like, I couldn't access the site, so it was like 4 days. I live in Portland, so it was super close to me. And I came up kind of impulsively, but it was wonderful. There was lots of great people here, and it was really cool to see David Lynch directing and just see a little bit of what was going on. Yeah, it's great.
I'm Erin, and I'm actually from North End. So I was
So
here.
how long were you in here?
But the way I stumbled onto what was about to happen, I was just walking down the street in front of Tweets, and I saw the painters up there starting to repaint that says RR to go, and they're up on their scaffolding, and I was like, what is happening? And from there on, I just started kind of hanging out and watching the filming as I found it, and all these wonderful people. I didn't know any of you. I think before September, whatever, 9th, 8th, 2015. Yeah, it was around the beginning of, so that made me a whole new group of worldwide friends. I've had people come stay with me from as far away as Norway that I met and through this community. So it's been a really amazing experience to just that one day in September led to all of this.
Office across the street.
I used, later, a couple of year or two later, I did have an office space that looked down on the street, and I always just wished I had had that office during filming, but unfortunately not then.
Hi, my name is Mark. I'm much like Mary. I moved into town and everything was new to me. Unfortunately, I was unemployed at the time, but that gave me the time to spend every day following. So other than that, I don't have much to say.
I'm Carl. I live in Snoqualmie, so I didn't have to travel very far. You would think that the advantage is you're here, and so you can get to everything. That's actually the disadvantage, because I have a day job, and so I wasn't wired into all the right Facebook groups, and so I would struggle to figure out where to go, and then have to leave early, and then on the last night I was like, screw it, I'm staying all night in the rain, and then I fell asleep at my desk the next day. But there's definitely multiple people here that I met through filming. There's people in the audience here who I met through filming, and then I was talking with some other folks last night about other people we met through filming that we've lost touch with, and that we'd like to reestablish contact with.
I know.
Charlie, Forrest.
He moved here to watch it.
Mary took as many pictures as she kind of slyly. You didn't really have to be sly anyway, really.
We didn't know that. We didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, and that she would just share with us, and it was just like a dream. We couldn't believe it was happening, and then the double R went up, and the martini, and that's just. And the day that I arrived, I think I arrived early in the day, and Mary picked me up from the airport, and I immediately wanted to go straight downtown North Bend, and it looked like this. And then as the evening progressed, we had heard rumors. Mark was super like a super spy, and kind of like knew what a lot of the information, and we would sort of, when we got clues about things about where they might be filming, we would pass it around to each other.
There were like text chains.
Right, and when I arrived, Mary knew that they were going to film that night, and this is them setting up for that. And I might get emotional talking about it, because I know that you guys won't think I'm silly like everybody else in the real world does, but this started, and it was like the people I love standing in Twin Peaks, listening. The first time I heard David Lynch's voice directing a scene from Twin Peaks with Bobby in it, I was like, how? And it's just incredible. Like, look at that. And then Vinny took this picture, I know, and
That was the first night I got into town. I think a lot of us who traveled, it was so immediate that we all arrived at pretty much the same time.
not knowing each other.
Like within 24 hours of one another. It was so immediate. So a lot of us arrived on a Thursday night, I think. Except Kristen, we got there on Friday. But no, Eric and I were staying down the street at the North Bend Motel, and we walk up to the diner, and I know the Neon Double R is permanent now, thanks to an incredible team of people and incredible diner owners at Tweeds. But at the time, walking up to that diner and seeing the Neon Double R, that's not a thing that anybody could see
Ever.
for the 25 years before that.
And there it was.
That was incredible. And so, we camp out on the corner and try to see what we can. And the first thing we see basically is a Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department car peel around the corner of the parking lot, and Bobby Briggs come out of the diner with his gun drawn.
And we're all like,
And this sudden realization that Bobby's going to be a deputy.
Like, what?
yeah.
I get the chills just thinking about it.
Right. Kristen, tell you about that you came like the next day or the day after that.
I came the next day. I had heard that everyone had had this experience and was overcome with jealousy. However, I got to see some other really cool things.
Oh, yes.
I got to see the coolest thing was I got to see Harry Dean Stanton at the trailer park. That was incredible.
And hear him sing.
That was amazing. So I'm really happy I got to see that. But super bummed that I was like the only person that did not get to see David Lynch at any point.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, I mean, we could see David Lynch. He was in the trailer park.
Oh, I couldn't see it.
Okay. Well, the previous night at the diner, we didn't realize it at the time, We had no idea what we were watching, let alone that it would be the last night that they filmed at the diner. So we were standing on that street corner until 2:30 in the morning or something. And as everybody starts to file out, David Lynch is standing in the parking lot, just looking at the building, looking at the sign and soaking it all in. And we're just like, wow, this guy like really appreciates his surroundings and this setting. And then the next morning, as we're walking down the street, we find the Mar portion of the Marti sign on a flatbed truck and realize that they're done filming at the diner. So
Where did the Mars sign come from?
presumably, I don't know, Sente? Somebody.
I heard a rumor that Pat Cockwell had it in her garage.
Oh, that was the original Mar.
I think so. As far as I know,
Josh,
oh,
Brian Kersar and I asked her about that, and she would look around and said she didn't have it.
Josh, I would guess art department made it again. If Pat Cockwell doesn't have it, I would guess art department. I would guess that art department. I mean, I can't say for sure, but my best assumption would be that art department made a duplicate. If Pat Cockwell doesn't have it, then it was a duplicate that was made, would be my best guess. But I remember too, because I remember I wasn't up there. I didn't come up until, the scene I saw was the truck scene. You remember that one? And then they were at the sheriff's station, and I came up. I also stayed at Mary's for about a week, which was so much fun because it was like a Twin Peaks slumber party. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, I just remember. But I remember when the diner wrapped, and I remember asking, so you saw Cooper there? And I remember hearing Cooper wasn't there. I thought, Dale Cooper does not go to the Double R Diner in season 3. I remember that being really a shocking thing. Do you remember that conversation?
The scene where he drives into town with Laura, that was the last thing they filmed this night, and that's why the street is wet, because they came in with hoses and they sprayed it all down, and we thought, what are they doing? And it was truly surreal because David Lynch was walking around and kind of talking to us here and there, when we were just standing around. And he actually thanked us at one point for being there. He did say, watch those pictures now, you know. Yeah, you kids be good with those photos. And we were thanking him, and then they came and they sprayed the street down, and we thought, what are they doing? And then they came with that black car, turned around a couple of times, drove past the diner, and then that was the last thing they filmed that night.
But the lights were off at the diner, right? And so we were like, why are they driving past with the lights off?
Oh, that's true.
And we couldn't.
So it was a double driving that car. Clearly, it was not.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. He wasn't
They
there.
weren't there, but.
Yeah. Because that was later when they were at the end.
He was, like Vinny said, he was standing, David Lynch was standing, and he was just like so lovingly looking up at the sign. And Mary and I were kind of standing back with him, and I said, it's absolutely beautiful. And he said, back to its glory. and we didn't know, like Carl said, Mary had a real life too, and she had a chiropractor appointment. So the next morning we were driving in, and I think the chiropractor was right past the diner, and we saw the truck, and we're like, they're taking it down. That's why he was standing there looking at it like that, because they took it down the next morning.
And it was so sad.
Yeah.
It was.
Whenever there was, and it sounds so silly, but it was we were so emotionally invested that whenever anything like that, it was like your friend moved away, it was gone,
Like they came home.
Yeah. And then when they finally left, after they all packed up and left and went back to LA, the closest I can get to that feeling is being broken up with. I was literally bummed and just come back.
Yeah, it was really cool that I got there that afternoon a little later than Vinny, I think, right? You came and picked me up from the airport.
Yeah.
So, right, so they brought me back, and we got there back at 10 or something. And we pulled up, and they were all standing there across the street watching, and it was just so immediately incredible that The jukebox, yeah.
Like they wasted no time.
Yeah, it was
Everything
immediate.
came out and stuff like the next day.
Yeah, but that night it was wild because it was just so. I mean, we've been hearing from Mary about how welcoming they've been and kind of open, and it was because, like you said, you're talking to the people, the Skip and Riley and everyone was kind of like handling. David's son was there doing some like crowd control and what's that? And it was just so cool that they were kind of like, oh yeah, you're welcome to watch. Like they were letting us photograph and video, but then David was like, now don't share these pictures anyway. Like talking to us directly, we were like, we promise, this is just for us to share amongst each other. Yeah, and then sometimes they'd be like cutting to a different. I mean, this is a different day I'm talking about now, but we'd be watching them film at like the trailer park. And, they're like, oh, they're gonna cut to this angle, so you guys can't be in the background when you move. But if you go across behind here, you'll have a better view anyway. So they were so like open to it. And we, of course, realized at some point, like, it's because they know us, because we talk to them and they trust that we're telling the truth and that we're not, like, hiding way back in the distance trying to, like, sneakily take pictures. We're just there to be a part and experience this thing. So they're so kind to, like, give that to us.
Yeah.
But
And
then
they
that
were
first
paying
night,
close attention, I think, to
Oh, yeah.
social media to make sure that things weren't. Sabrina was there a
Yeah,
lot of the
Sabrina's,
time.
yeah.
And making sure that they didn't. I think if they would have seen anything from us,
right?
They would.
Yeah, they knew to keep an eye on it. If we were great.
Yeah, they actually told us, they were like, so one of the cool things about when they were filming is that David brought back a lot of people who worked on the original series, including people who were doing completely different things in their career now. And brought back even like production assistants who, were originally like 20 and that was their job. And now they were in their late 40s and he asked them to come back and be production assistants. And they did. And so it was so cool. Along with, he also had his son Riley be a production assistant. But we got to talk to a lot of just the crew people who've been working with David for years or worked with David years ago, and they were just a family, and it was, I don't know, really nice. And so we got to, so anyway, one of the production assistants, both of the production assistants, we really got to spend a lot of time with, because I think part of their job was managing us. And so he would just say, like, if I swear to God, if I see any of these pictures on Instagram, And I'm like, no, I swear to God, I'm not gonna post them on Instagram. And then he's like, what's your Instagram name? I told him. So I'm like, he trusts me. And then after like the first, week or so, then we just like started talking. And one of the security guards at the diner even like had to clear with him. We were on a street corner for like 5 hours. And it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, there's nowhere, everything is closed. And then one of the security guards was like, well, I got you. And then I got to go use like their fancy like toilets. So I thought that was pretty cool. The fancy toilets.
I also really love that, like, we were saying that it was, we got there, we saw, like, the first thing I saw when I got there at like 10 p.m. was that scene with Bobby. And it was so wild because we were like, well, of course we want to watch David Lynch film a new season of Twin Peaks, but we were like, we don't want to really be spoiled. We want to experience it when it comes out as everyone else does, And what's so cool about it, of course, is that, anyone, I'm sure most of us know enough about filmmaking that, like, it's kind of hard to spoil things in any movie because they shoot out of sequence a lot, but with David, it's even more so. Like, you're not going to get anything spoiled because you have no idea what the hell's happening. Unspoilable, practically. And so, like, the very first thing that happens after I got there that night was that we see Bobby come out, draw his gun, and announce himself as Deputy Briggs, and we're all like, oh my gosh. Like, that is kind of a spoiler, but I feel like there's also a lot of people who have written, kind of a fan fiction version of the future, and it's like, it tracks that Bobby would become a deputy. So we were kind of like, all right, that's, I guess, a spoiler, but like, we can roll with that. And then literally nothing else the entire 5 days I was there was spoiler worthy because it was all just the most weird stuff. That shot of the woman screaming, like, no exaggeration, 20, 25 takes of her screaming that bloody murder, and we were like, how is this woman still screaming? And what the hell is going on? Like, it was incredible and invigorating, like everything you'd hope that a David Lynch set would be, where it was just like watching him work his magic. and just delightfully talk to the crew members and to us. When he walked by in the corner, the sort of version of the story you told me is that he walked by and he went, "Thank you, David," and he went, "Thank you," and like gave a big thumbs up, and we were all just like, "Ah." And then seeing him at the end in the parking lot before we all went for the night and walking past and saying like, "We should say hello real quick," and Ethan, go be Ethan, and say hello to him. And we walked up and said a brief hello, and he was so nice and said like, "Don't share any of those pictures anywhere," and gave us a little thing, and then we walked away vibrating, and then the next morning discovering that was the last night, and we went, "Oh my God," he was sitting there having a moment saying goodbye at the diner potentially. We got to witness it. It was just unbelievable, and that was night one. I was there for 5 days. These guys were there for weeks. It's just unbelievable.
And the fun thing is that
Unbelievable.
finding out, okay, well, this is a pretty good clue as to the Fat Trout Trailer Park. But the sign, they had the security guard, out there, and then it was covered up. And we're like, what is it? What is it? And I think we had maybe heard rumors that it might be Fat Trout, or
I don't think we had any clue, but because they hadn't announced Harry Dean Stanton at all. He wasn't on that cast list that was announced, so we were just hoping.
So then I was driving by maybe, what?
Did she ask where the picture was taken?
Oh, what year? 2015.
is
Yeah.
it within like a 3 week?
It was 6 weeks. They started filming the day after Labor Day, 2015, and I believe the last day of filming in Washington was October 13th. Am I right? Okay. I'm not as great with dates as some people here, but that date is stuck in my memory. So yeah, 6 weeks. I had a friend, my friend Amber came to watch filming like during the second week and stayed for the rest of the time with me. She stayed at my house for 5 weeks. And which was great. It felt like college or something. And then also, I have to note, my friend Charlie moved here for watching filming. He was sending me pictures because he lived in, was it Wisconsin? And he was like texting me pictures across the country, and I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm moving to Twin Peaks. And I was like, what? I thought you were joking. No, he was moving to Twin Peaks. He got into town the night before filming began, and he didn't have a place to stay. He had like a suitcase, and that was it. In a dream.
Isn't he in the background of the scene?
Oh, yeah, he is in the background of one of the scenes, because he went to all of the filming. And he's in the background scene in the diner. And I think it's Norma and someone where they're talking, maybe Shelley. And you can see the window behind them, and there's this guy standing on the corner in the rain with an umbrella. And that's totally Charlie. It's so cool.
If you guys don't know Charlie, you've probably seen his social medias.
Yeah, he's Tiny Realm on Instagram.
Beautiful.
Amazing
Beautiful
pictures.
Gorgeous shots of the mountain with like Tweeds in the foreground. He worked at the bakery right next door to Tweeds for a few years, right?
Yeah, because he was sitting at the bakery, because the bakery was right next to, where filming was happening. So he would just be hanging out. And then one day they were like, do you need a job? And he was like, yeah. And then he worked there and ended up being the baker there a few years later, and it was amazing.
A true example of like Twin Peaks magic.
Yeah, Twin Peaks magic. So cool.
A lot of these, you'll see a lot of these pictures coming up are, you'll notice a drastic difference in the quality. And Britton had a very good camera and took very good pictures. But you could tell they were a little more wary. Like in some pictures, you could even kind of see them because they could spot a long lens and were careful about paying attention to that.
But like the ones that are in like the trailer park, that was very much like that they were filming in the trailer park, but it was in such a way that you couldn't be physically too close because they had to shoot these deep shots. And like I said, they'd see us across the street and they'd be like, "But you're fine for now, but when we cut to this other angle, you're gonna need to move to the back end of this where we're shooting at an angle that we won't catch you, but you can still see as much as you can, as close as you can." So they were very like allowing that, which was great. Was that
They didn't tell us to leave. They literally told us, you can move over
didn't
here
tell us
for
to
a
leave,
better
but
view.
Stand over
stand over here
here.
for a better view.
Yeah.
Like they were very kind to let us film that, and that's the reason why we went. Because I don't know if it's come up yet. That famous shot of like me and you and Eric with like our heads above the fence
yeah,
that
it's
looks
there.
like we're like peeping,
It's
but they're
there.
like,
That
no, you be
famous
there.
shot. It's famous to us because we're
Did I say famous out loud or was that just in my head?
But it's so awesome. It's just their heads. You'll see it. There it is.
There we go, perfect timing. So yeah.
Look at you.
So I'm standing on the railroad tracks behind the trailer park here, and I decided to zoom in on my friends. So you can kind of see Harry Dean Stanton blurry, David Lynch, and then there's this guy, yeah, the neighbor. But when we were standing in that location for a long time, do you guys remember the crew warning us, saying like this was the death zone because the car is coming around the corner really fast? And they warned us like you guys might want to move from that little curve. But we were pretty far away. I'm very glad that I decided to bring my nice camera with the zoom lens because everybody else had their cell phones, not really thinking it through.
And because of that, I think that's because of your cameras. When we first spotted Harry Dean Stanton, like I said, it wasn't on the announced cast list, and everyone had their fingers crossed that his character, that Harry Dean, would show up, but we didn't know. So the day we got there, we're watching, she's got her crazy camera out, and she goes, "Is that?" Actually, honestly, I think it might have been me that saw him from behind and said, "Is that Harry Dean Stanton? I can't quite tell." And like some guy turned and was like, "Oh, that's not him." But then later on, this other guy turned and it was him, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, that's Harry Dean Stanton." We now know that he's in the season. And we got to watch all this stuff get filmed. It was so incredible. And then this is right before he was leaving at the end of the day. I don't know if we have that video, if you guys have a grabbing little video that I had posted a while ago. If not, I can find it. But he's walking to his car with like a PA or his assistant or whoever, about to leave after they filmed all day. And as he's walking to the car, either he notices us or someone pointed us out, and he like stops before he gets to the car and pivots and walks right at us. And he comes right over to us, and this little video I took, it's like literally 5 seconds long, is him walking up and going like, "Hello, hello and goodbye," and that's it. And then he goes to leave, and then our friend Tyler kind of grabbed him and said, "Could you sign this real quick?" And he like signed his Blu-ray, and then he got in the car and left. And so we just got this one brief moment of Harry Dean Stanton saying, "Hello, hello and goodbye," and then leaving, and we were just like, "Oh my God!" And then but we were so lucky to have that just moment to say hello to him. It was incredible.
My memory we have a patchwork of memories here, and I'm sure we can triangulate to how it actually happened. My memory is realizing it was Harry Dean Stanton when we heard him singing. You know, you don't approach a trailer park and expect to hear singing, but yeah.
What is that?
Kind of blocking.
Oh yeah, because they blocked it off with the black helmet.
Yeah, it was difficult to see where he was sitting for that scene, but we could hear him playing guitar as we walked up to the trailer park.
I do include it after. There are quite a few of these because they are so good and it's so interesting. But I do include towards the end how far back we actually are. We are like out of the trailer park, like across the street, sort of in an alley.
We're on a trail in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
We're on the Snoqualmie Valley Trail.
That says Mark Frost. It's not very clear, but we're like, what? You know?
Oh, right.
And it was a surprise.
Right, because I don't think we noticed that day, did we? We did see this guy in like a full like winter coat with
Like a houseless guy.
And we didn't think too much of it, and it was later we're like, oh shit, that was Mark Frost.
When we were looking at the bunker.
Zero Pond
So
Salute.
I was just taking pictures of everybody because I didn't know who was significant and who was not. And there's a picture, actually, I think these are a little out of order, but I had taken a bunch of what I later learned was Mark because I thought he looked so funny with this outfit. And that night I was going through my pictures, zooming in, and I think I came across this one where he's talking to David, and I realized, wait, that was Mark. And we're taking these pictures of and kind of making fun of him for looking this way, like right here. And then when Mark's book came out and he was doing his book signing tour, this was before his episode aired when we returned, I was able to get my book signed by him, and I showed him some of the pictures, and he was so excited. And he was also very happy that I hadn't spoiled the surprise by sharing any of the pictures online yet. But as the episode aired, I would make my pictures public so people could see them when it was allowed. But I thought it was very nice of them to allow us to even be there and take these pictures. And Skip, who's in the tan coat, the crew member, I remember at one point him telling me, like, do you like Fire Walk With Me? Because if you do, this season is going to be very much in similar tone as Fire Walk With Me. And I was so excited and thought it was really cool of him to kind of give a sneak peek, because as we've all said, it was hard to really tell what's going on. Because you're seeing everything filmed out of order, no context. You don't know, is this real? Is this some alternate reality?
Yeah, we're like, Shelly jumps on a hood of a car? What is going on?
And Skip also told us that he was jealous of us because we were allowed to have cell phones with cameras, because no one on set was allowed to like have anything like that. But they, you know, they legally couldn't do anything about us. So he was like, yeah, you're lucky.
I actually heard, like, so yesterday, I ran into, I don't know if anyone else has met, there's a woman named Angela Andrews who works at the North Bend Trading Company area, the little store where Selah used to be. And Angela, I found out, was one of the deputies in season 3. And she was also a stand-in for Cheryl several times. So she was telling me all this, and I was like, oh, I never met you or heard of you, but she is now, she'd done acting in theater for years, and now she's working there and raising some kids. And anyway, we were having a lovely conversation, and she mentioned, like, yeah, when I was there, they fired several people, like, in the crew and cast that were there that had, like, shared stuff, just pictures from their trailers that weren't supposed to, that didn't know. And she was like, they just outright let people go. And she's like, I actually didn't end up working like 2 or 3 jobs that I wasn't expected to, because these people got let go because they were breaching like this protocol. And I was like, I didn't know it got that serious. Like, I thought they like established the rules, locked it down, and no one dared. And she was like, no, some people didn't know, or just it immediately broke that trust and were immediately let go by David Company. And I was like, whoa. It was like, and she's like, and I got more work out of it, and it was great because I got to spend more time with them. And I was like, cool.
Riley.
Oh yeah, there's Riley.
Watching Riley
And Sabrina, yeah.
work with his dad was really
It was
cool
very,
too.
very sweet, yeah.
For the trucks.
Mark was there a lot, and Mark was like taking notes, and Mark had the lowdown of what everything was happening, and like.
He has his book still.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I was gonna bring my notes.
Well, yeah, because I kind of got in trouble for showing a picture, and then I just started writing everything down.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So I kind of played the thing where if they can't have phones and I can't take pictures, and I'm not gonna do it either. But I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. It was kind of cool to actually write it down, because you forget a lot of details.
I would, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's like the night that they were filming the scene at the motel, and throughout the day, I think you had taken some really good pictures of the wall and stuff like that. But it was strange to see, and I forgot the actor's name when he was walking backwards for the scene.
Malachi Shreenan. Malachi Shreenan.
Malachi
Shreenan was the actor's name.
And at first, I thought it was another actor, and yeah, and so and throughout the day, we saw this person just walking backwards, and you're like, what's going on? And that's the way that they filmed it, was walking backwards. And it was just little things like that, and you had to write it down, or else you'd forget like all the little details. So yeah, and that's the other thing. I was unemployed at the time, and I had 2 weeks of just doing nothing. And it was like every day I would show up at 5:30, 6 a.m. and they just look at me like I was weird. And like, are you helping out? Are you working? And I was like, no. And yeah, just
Some people did think we were working here and there so much.
yeah. And you'd be so close that you hear them talk about what they were going to do next. They would give tips. And you just try to run over there and get ready for the next shoot. So, and it was really nice to meet everyone that's here. And I really miss Charlie. I wish Charlie was here. And yeah, I think the other person I met, where did he go? Travis Blue.
Shelly's double.
So it was very nice to meet him too. Yeah, I'm gonna hand the mic off.
I'll add some stuff on top of yours. I would. There's sort of a theme going on here, and there was was a bit of a thrill of a chase, and the detective effort. Where are they going to be? What are they doing? What is it? What does it mean? But then we touched on it earlier, which was that sinking feeling that, wait, Dale Cooper didn't go in the diner.
Well, they blocked it off one day. Remember? They had all
Agreed,
these-
but
we were like, Philip Jeffries could be in there.
But there was a handful of things where you started triangulating about which actors were in town at which time, and you could draw conclusions about these characters not going to encounter each other in Twin Peaks, maybe somewhere else.
We just didn't know it.
Yeah, but I mean, but you start to go, oh, maybe Kyle's never going to interact
I know,
with
we were like,
Norma
no.
or with Big Ed, and so that thrill of that chase, and it was a sinking feeling about how much of the season is really going to be set here. And then I had one other thought, I lost it. The other thing is, and I haven't heard anybody really touched on it. I was talking to someone last night. There are people here who saw things that didn't make the show. Those of us who were there at the Mount Sinai Motel that night saw there was a smoke effect on one of the doors that was in the early takes that then wasn't in the later takes. What was used in the show didn't have the smoke effect, and so each of us has seen things that didn't make the show or were different when it made the show, and that's part of that wow, what's going on here? So now I'll pass it on.
Yeah, I want to add to that. If anybody saw Wild at Heart, the scene with the red pipe from Mon Uncle, that was one of the things that I saw, and it seemed like I asked around to see if anybody else had seen it. But he had somebody walk past the diner with the red pipe. You know what I mean? And so you're like, is this really going to make it into Twin Peaks? Because you'd seen him do it in Wild at Heart, and I think it was in Mulholland Drive too.
Mulholland Drive.
At Pinky's, walking by with the red pipe. And I was like, that would be cool to have that same thread, but I never doubt, like you said, it's just we saw something like that and we were hoping that it would pop up.
These Rancho Rosa signs are the signs that indicated to the crew that was where filming was going to be, like, filming that way or something. And Melissa managed to get to Mary Has One, and we kept them really squirreled away, and it was really fun when the show aired. And then the Rancho Rosa is the development that where Dougie Jones lives, so in Las Vegas. So that was cool. And this was all, yeah.
The one sign still has the wire on. The one sign still has the wire on it from when I pried it off. The street sign. There's like a Y in the road just past, just east of the casino before the sign that says goes to downtown historic. The Snoqualmie. And I just stopped my car. That's my life. It was 3 a.m. Stopped my car in the middle of the road, and I'm just gonna pull it off. Well, yeah, I'm like trying, and finally it just came off. So that's that.
I can add to that.
We should probably stress that no one was prying these signs off while they were in use.
Right.
This did not happen until they had moved on to the next location and we knew they weren't in use anymore. Like everybody said, we didn't want to abuse the trust that they had in us. We appreciate this body of work and these artists, and we didn't want to betray that. So nobody was stealing signs as they were in use.
Right. And making sure that we were respectful of the gift that we'd been given, and we move on. But I mean, if we had done something while we were here, then the locals wouldn't get a chance to watch the rest of filming or something. We would have messed it up for everybody. So we were always just really, really careful.
One of my favorite things was somebody hit on it earlier when we were walking back to the motel that night. And David's like, "Listen here, kids, don't be posting those on social media." And that gave us the in to walk up to him, and we shook his hand. Vinny had a painting that he painted, and he's like, "Will you please sign this?" Hands it over, and David signs it, and then Vinny didn't. He's like holding his breath for
I don't remember. I blacked out.
We
I
get
came
back
to down the street.
We get back to the motel, and he writes on Facebook, I think I just met David Lynch.
I think.
and I just started breathing. I just took a breath.
Yeah, it was about halfway down the block when I heard Vinny just go. And we were like, "Did you just breathe now?" That was like a full minute ago that we talked to him. That was like understandable.
That was one of my favorite things of the weekend.
Mary or Mark, what was the order of the location filming? Did they film before the diner? Because I only got then.
The first thing that they filmed was the painting of the shovels. That was, and I don't think anybody actually saw that because that was what is that place called? Right with the mountain, the trail, the Mountainside Trailhead. Yeah, it was up there. And at that time, I don't think anybody realized we could watch filming. I know. I just assumed we couldn't. And then they filmed. They were.
Was it New Big Ed's pretty early on?
Yeah, and then after that, they moved to the New Big Ed's, and I knew they were down there. And I was going to the store to buy bananas one day, and I was like, oh my God, they're right down the street. And so I was like, well, I mean, the signs were up, but they still had to let traffic go through. So I was like, well, let's drive, whatever. So I drove down the road, and I see David Lynch on a little cart, and then I get down, and then I turn around and start driving the other way, and I see someone walking down the street carrying something, and I thought it was a sign. Turns out, I believe it was a shovel, because it was Wendy Roby walking down the street. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was wishing I had a camera. And so then I actually went home and got my camera. And then I'm trying to take pictures as I'm driving by, and almost all of them are trash. But I do have a picture of David on the little cart. And I did get a picture that had the Big Ed's sign. It wasn't up yet. It was still in a little truck. And it was at the very beginning. Yeah. And then that night there was filming, and I didn't go because I assumed that we weren't allowed to. But that's when the next morning Charlie was like, "Why weren't you there?" And I was like, "I don't know." And
she sounded the alarm. And we all
what?
came running.
The back signal.
Yeah, what? We can watch, and he goes, they're really nice. You should put. So then they started filming at the diner, and my first night watching filming at the diner, actually it wasn't at the diner. It was in downtown North Bend, and it was when they were filming the outside Nadine's shop with what's his face, Dr. Graham. Yeah, and. That was pretty cool because I saw them, and I was hanging, I was with Charlie and some other local friends, and the base camp was in the same building as a winery, and I think, what is it now? It's a coffee shop, I think, now. But it was a winery at the time, and then the other side was something else. But they rented the other side for their base camp. So we went to the winery, and we're sitting outside, and we could just see people walking in and out of, getting food, and that was pretty cool.
Didn't you say Dana and Machen were hanging out there one night, having some wine or something?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were, and then I saw a lot of Wendy Roby just kind of walking around. But that was the first night that I saw David Lynch direct, and I was just sitting there going what the hell? I was sitting across the street from the diner, and just sitting there until super late at night, and it was magical, and it was more magical the next night. This was my favorite night of filming, and we were sitting there till super late, and that's when they were filming Big Ed going in. And because we looked at him, I'm like, oh my God, that's Eric again. And I was kind of lost my shit. But we're sitting out in the parking lot of the Double R Diner, and there's waitresses, you know, serving coffee. I can see Norma and Ed inside the diner. It was like a real, like, breaking the fourth wall, like my brain was like melted, like what is real? I don't know. But that was, I mean, that was like one of the best moments of my life, I think. It was just amazing. I loved it.
And just to know some of the people we know are returning.
Yeah.
Not knowing
People know
what's
where
going
it's
on.
right. So yeah, so they did the diner, and then they did the apartment. Yeah.
I think this was before the apartment.
What?
I think. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so then the trailer park, the apartment, and then the street with a little boy, which we watched David paint blood on the ground on the street.
When a little kid gets hit by the evil truck.
Yeah, and we're watching. We're like standing on the side where we're seeing like what is being filmed. They're like putting a stick in the middle of the road, and then the truck like hits it, and we're like, oh shit. And like,
Brought out like that dummy thing too.
Yeah. And then
Henry was like the same.
yeah, so my son at the time was about the same age, and his elementary school is down the street from where they were filming, and we'd ride his bike to school all the time past there, so it was freaking me out. But we could see this kid, and they're like running over his clothes with a truck, and then having him put the shirt back on, and then he's painting the blood, and I was just like, I gotta go. But I'm glad that I saw that, because then when I saw it, it wasn't as upsetting seeing it.
It was pretty scary knowing that though, like what's happening
Yeah.
in Twin Peaks.
There's bad things afoot in Twin Peaks. Yeah.
And then the crazy that the truck itself was just, as often they would do, it was just a local guy's truck that they used for this whole crazy scene to make this evil, ominous truck. And then, yeah, it was just kicking around for years after that.
Yeah, then it just stayed
Just
there.
sat there. And
We thought it was
just
going to be
go
the
and visit
opening
the
scene,
truck
remember
after.
that?
Yeah,
We thought it might be the opening of the whole
photo
thing.
shoot of Josh laying underneath the front end of that evil truck.
Anything is possible.
You got a shot of that truck. Somebody got, I think it was Dan Miller, got a shot of that truck behind me.
Oh yeah.
He's like, look what's behind you, texted it to me.
There's that picture, Josh, of you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dolores.
I remember that.
And then I'll talk about one other scene that it was, I think it was just Spencer and I. We followed the, I don't know if everybody remembers Spencer, he was a teenager at the time. And he was a 3-time trivia winner. And he came up there, I think, just for like 2 days. And we had followed a sign to what ended up being the Briggs house, the This Is the Chair scene with Betty Briggs. And we're standing across the street, and one moment that I remember, I didn't see them filming the scene because they were filming inside, but we saw, you know, Dana and Charlotte and Robert Forster, who we assumed was playing Harry S. Truman at the time. And, you know, all kind of on the porch. And then I just remember at the end of the scene, because we had no idea what they were filming. And then at the very end, I remember seeing Riley and David Lynch walk out and give each other a high five. And that's just a moment I remember that was really kind of a nice moment, seeing father and son do that.
I have an addendum to that story.
Oh yes, I love it.
When you're done with that, I want to go back to the truck. Oh, I have stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So the next year, I was vending at a horror con where they had Twin Peaks things in Portland, and Dana Ashbrook was there, and I ended up hanging out and drinking beer with Dana Ashbrook. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, like I know that Josh knows Dana, so I was like, oh yeah, I know Josh Eisenstock. And then he was like, you know what's weird? It's like, so we're filming the new season, and it is the most hush-hush thing. I'm not even allowed to like take the scripts anywhere. I'm not told where we're going. I don't know what's going on. It's like, whatever. And I come out of my trailer, and Josh is just standing there.
And he walked up to me wearing the deputy uniform and went, shh.
Yeah. He's like, how did you guys know where we were filming? And I was like, do you know how small these towns are? Like, you have big yellow signs that say base camp
I mean, come on.
Yeah, in LA it'd be different, but
Right,
out here,
but here, like, what?
And how obsessed we are.
Yeah.
I think they underestimate.
Yeah, they-
like,
Oh, I gotta tell you. Can I tell the LA story?
You know this one, Annie.
this was pretty exciting too.
Okay.
Like that.
So this is not Snoqualmie, but this is a really crazy story. So I leave, I think I stayed at Mary's for about a week. I go home. I go back to what at that time was my day job, which was this location permitting job. And I know they moved to LA, but LA is a big city. There's no way we're ever going to find them or even look. So I'm going to my job, and it's this area where there's these ranches that I had to do a lot of work there. I would go there basically to help lock down these locations and get their permits. So I'm going to this ranch that I go to all the time for another job, nothing to do with Twin Peaks. And as I'm driving down these roads out in the middle of nowhere, which I'm used to doing, there's all these signs saying RR. RR, not Rancho Rosa, RR. And I'm following it and I'm thinking, no. And all of a sudden I get to the gate, and I've been to this ranch for this job a million times. And there's a security guard standing at the gate, which I've never seen before. So I go to the security guard and I'm thinking I gotta ask. And I say, so this production company, I said, I'm here, I need to see, Gary, the owner of the ranch. Is this the same production company that's filming now that's, that I'm working for right now? And the guy says, oh no. I said, what production company is it? He said, Rancho Rosa. And I went like, so I drive up, because I have to, it's my job, I literally have to. And the first thing, I see John Schlementi, who Mary was talking about. That was really, really nice. He was talking to all of us when we were up there. Johnny comes, he sees me get out of my car, and the look on his face, he comes up and he says, how did you find us? And I said, I promise you I didn't. I promise you I didn't. I'm doing my job. I need to talk to Gary, the owner of the ranch. I promise. So, and then he said, well, just have some craft service while you're here. So I didn't see it, but they were filming the Hutch and Chantal Mr. C scene with the Give the Boss Man a Wet One, that scene. And at one point, I can hear David Lynch calling action in the distance. And I remember at one point, Johnny says, stand a little bit over there. You're going to get in the shot. I said, yeah, I don't want to be the next Frank Silva. He said, well, maybe you do. And then I left, and I called Mary immediately and said, you're not going to believe it. And Mary's like, tell him to come back here. And then we started speculating. I said, it's a ranch in the middle of nowhere. Could it be Philip Jeffries? Could it be Chet Desmond? I mean, what's this going to be? But yeah, that's kind of a funny story.
So I want to go back to the day that they were filming the truck scene. I got there kind of late. I was in the graveyard and woke up that day after a really short nap. I woke up that day with a migraine, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go. Something was telling me to go. I was like, get through this, because it's not going to last very long. It's going to last a couple of weeks, and you'll regret this. And so, first off, I want to add, I did not stay at Mary's house. I was staying with some friends who I've known forever, who live in the North Fork area, irrespective that they rent on the property where that Love reality show was filmed. You all know, if you're local, you know what I'm talking about.
My stepdaughter knows that show.
And that was pretty popular like 1 year ago. And so my friends rent, and it's a large property with several houses scattered. And so my friends are cool. They leave the door unlocked. I just can come and open it. And so I get to Snoqualmie, and I go right to the filming area, which is the truck scene. And I don't see much because it's flipped towards the end. And then when it's done, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the casino because it's crab night. And so I did that. And then I went back to where I'm staying, and it's dark. I'm driving up, and there's all these trailers, and I'm like, what the hell? There's all these wardrobe trailers and tents, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a base camp.
Base camp.
Yeah, it's a base camp. I'm like, and so I go to my friend's house, and I sleep, and the next morning, she's like, oh yeah, we thought it would be a good surprise for you. I'm like, we'll soon come. And so I get up and get ready, and I'm kind of slowly getting closer to base camp. I want to hang out, but I don't want to be intrusive. And then the owners of the property walk up, and they walk into the tent, and they just help themselves to food. I'm like, okay. They're like, well, we own this property, so yeah. And so I'm like, okay, great. Okay, Cheyenne, okay, I'm gonna just ask for some water. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have some water, and I'm sitting down. It was like a hot day. And I'm sitting down in the tent, and I see Mark Frost, and he's speaking to this boy. and I didn't realize it was his son. It was this, he was like talking to him. I thought it was a young actor he was coaching. And his son's later on in a scene with, like, he's tossing a baseball around or something. And so I didn't put it together until, I saw the show. But just hung out for several hours in that area. And I didn't see much, but I thought, and I just felt like I belonged to it. There was a horse I was hanging out with, it was not a white horse. And I do remember, like, some security people were like, "Oh, is that your horse?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my horse." But yeah, that was really it was really cool to be like, I'm sleeping on the same property as base camp. And I almost missed it, so.
But let me, if I could. So you always hear about David Lynch's attention to detail and how he's such an artist even with like something like this. And I had heard, that he had placed the sand on Cheryl's face. Specifically, he wanted her to look a certain way and have a vision. And so it was really amazing seeing him spend so much time painting that red blood stain on the asphalt of the street where the little boy would be killed. But I mean, who would have known what would have happened there? Although in that scene, you could see exactly what happened.
Right.
We don't know why or anything, but you could.
You didn't see any of those extras, though. I mean, I did. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you
They
did?
were like standing off, like back here, and they were only for that one time where they come out, like are standing around, like very dramatic. Right.
Yeah, do you guys have
They're putting the numbers up.
Oh, yeah.
In this picture.
A telephone pole in the park, yeah.
Yeah. Ethan, you and I weren't there. Remember, we went to get milkshakes when they did that. We got back and they told us about the 6. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Yeah, we went to the Fall City place across from the Roadhouse to get milkshakes. They said they were really good milkshakes. We thought it was a break. We got back and they told us about the 6.
That's right.
So I lived in Everett. I lived in Marysville at the time, which is 10 minutes away. Marysville is 10 minutes north of Everett. And I was very familiar with Everett. I just went to school there and everything, so I just know it well. I was working graveyard and at the time, as I said earlier, and I just knew that they were going to be filming at either Laura Palmer's house or Donna's house. I'm like, they're going to be filming at one of those houses. When I get off work at 6 in the morning, it's just 10 minutes out of the way, I'm going to scope it out like every other day. And then eventually see road closure signs. That's just, they're going to post them. I know that they're going to post these road closure signs, so. And I eventually did see them, and so I decided, I'm going to go watch that filming. I do remember that there was a website, I don't remember what it was called, something like My Everett News, and they had posted a thing alerting neighbors that there was going to be screaming in the middle of the night.
Was there something in the paper?
There was something
in the newspaper.
It wasn't physical newspaper. It was an online newspaper. And I think it was myeverettnews.com, something like that.
Like a little, if you hear screaming,
don't be alarmed.
Don't be alarmed.
Yeah, you're going to hear screaming in the middle of the night. And people were freaking out. People were like, oh, it's going to be, I don't know why. People in Everett were thinking it was going to be Amanda Seyfried. It's going to be her. It was going to be her. I'm like, I don't think so. People are like, you just don't want us to go watch filming. I'm like, I don't really care. But I think it's going to be something older to do with the story, And so yeah, anyway, so I go there and I believe it was Mark Frost I met first. I was just hanging out at the, waiting for them to film. They were doing all sorts of stuff in the yard, making it look like it was neglected. And they would do that and then they would take it off and then it would look nice again. And I remember I was waiting by the barricades as close as I could get. And the Everett police were right there manning the barricade. And Mark Frost walked by and they were like, sir, you can't walk past that. And he's like, I'm Mark Frost. Actually, no, he didn't say that. He said, I'm the producer. And Then he started filling for like his credentials, and I said, "That's Mark Frost." That's Mark Frost. And then he showed them his credentials, and they let him in. So that was really cool. Yeah. And then I also saw David staring near. I think it might have been the same barricade, but all of a sudden this little Kia sedan comes up, and they have to move the barricade. There's no police at this time. And the door opens, and David comes out, and then the other door's open, and it's the guy driving and probably some type of assistant. And they're like, "Oh no, David, we got it." He's like, I've got it. He moves the barricade by himself. And so that was really cool. But yeah, watching in the filming in Everett was, it was at night, it was really cold. It was really cool. There was a small group of people. I do know Charlie was there. You guys were there with your dog, yes. Amber was there. And
Did you meet Kyle?
Kyle addressed the crowd.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting because it is a stuffy neighborhood. It's one of Everett's better well-known, like all the founder houses are in that neighborhood. And but the neighbors were really cool. They were like walking around, giving us hand pies, cherry hand pies, and turkey wraps, and it was really neat. But yeah, so Kyle did address the crowd. She came to thank the crowd because they would want us to like move. They like let us get pretty close, and then they would help you have to back up or whatever. And address the crowd and said, you know, thanks for coming out. I know it's really cold. They're being great, and that was awesome. We saw Cheryl Lee. She did not address the crowd. She kept going inside. She was very, very cold. I remember that. She was freezing. And you could see her actually. It's kind of cool. You could see her through the window in the bedroom. She did 2 screams, and one was the scream where you could hear her, and that was chilling, bone chilling. But then she did a silent scream, and I think that was even more bone chilling because it was just the look of terror on her face and no sound. Yeah, it was. I can see that. I can see that still.
He looks cold.
I mean, he was cold too, but she was very cold. I know she had some health issues. But yeah, that was. And then I do remember. And I don't remember the sequence of any of this. It was just so late at night. But at one point he's like, "Okay, I want Kale to get in the car. I want you both to get in the car, and you're just going to drive around a couple blocks." And they didn't make us move for that. They were like, as long as you guys are on the sidewalk, you're fine. We'll black you out. Not a deal. But yeah, so he just went around, and so I know I was parked in that area, so I know they went by my car, which is kind of cool. But yeah, they drove around the block a couple of times, and that's the scene where they're driving back from Texas.
Vinny's gonna tell a story about this, about this filming location.
That's my Everett story.
Changing gears to the least interesting thing we will be discussing this evening. You may notice that Rio Bravo is not in Twin Peaks. But when you've traveled to the Snoqualmie Valley to watch Twin Peaks filming, and you're seeing the diner being painted and people frantically doing construction on these sets, when you see somebody painting a restaurant, you take some pictures. I was utterly convinced that the former Rocco's location, which had been vacant, was going to be used in Twin Peaks because they were making great progress that weekend. And I documented the hell out of it. I thought, you know, as we saw with the neon signs, it was up and then suddenly it wasn't. So I'm like, if this is a Twin Peaks location, there's a chance, you know, they're gonna paint over this as soon as they're done filming. And this is my only chance to document this. Turns out I just documented the painting of a new local Mexican restaurant. So the Snoqualmie Valley Historical Museum is ready for their Rio Bravo exhibit, and I'm happy to help.
Did you finally eat there?
Yes. So the restaurant wasn't completed while we were in town. They were still painting. I didn't get to eat there. So this morning, knowing that this story would probably come up, we finally ate at Rio Bravo. And I'm happy to report it was a delicious quesadilla. Got the job done.
And you're
5
from
stars.
California, so you know. Yeah.
So I'll have one tidbit, partly for some of the out-of-town folks probably wouldn't have noticed it. So I sort of had to dip in and out because I'm working and it's spread over the different weeks. But I'm seeing the same set of people every time I go because I'm going at night. I work and then I go at night and I see the same set of crew. I see Mark every time. And the last night, a whole bunch of people don't know. And we start talking and trading notes, and I realize, oh, I'm part of the night shift. There's an entire day shift that goes to filming, and we're all finally meeting here on the last night because we're all staying out the whole night. And it was just wild because 2 distinct sets of people who knew each other with a little bit of overlap, but there was actually 2 sets of fans tracking based on working a day or night.
Everybody kept asking me local if I knew you, Mary, and I'm like, I never see you, but you were at night. You were always watching at night, and I was in the day. So I think we finally met like 3 or 4 weeks into the filming. Yeah, like outside Smoky Joe's one night. Yeah.
A lot of us went at Smoky Joe's. Then I call it Smoky Joe's.
Smoky Joe's was obviously they were filming with Grace Zabriskie, but it was pretty cool because there were only honestly a few of us up there that night, and it was a mixture of day and night people. And they were just Grace and David were just hanging out outside the front door.
That recliner chair, and she was smoking.
And she was smoking. They're painting the sign.
It was brand new neon, and then David wanted it dirty, so he was spraying black spray paint on it. They would look at it and spray some black spray paint.
And then they were having a conversation. I mean, they're such. They were having a conversation about wood, and about because she does woodworking, and so does he, and so they were like talking about wood, and we're across the street, like. I mean, I should be ashamed, but I'm not. Let's see. I do have a story about. There was a lot of talk about secret filming that was happening. And so the rumor was that they would pretend to rap, and then they would go back out and film secret scenes. So the night they were filming at Smoky Joe's, I was convinced that they were gonna film more because they just all stayed inside. Like the trucks pulled away, but there was still a crew inside, and I was like, they're gonna go back. It's a ruse. We have to watch. So we hid. Yeah, it was me and my friend Amber, and we're like, okay, because it's just down the street from my house. And so we pretended to leave, and then we snuck back, and we were around a corner, and then we saw security coming around, and we're like, oh shit, security, that means something big's gonna happen. So we hid under a train. Literally went underneath, and we're both and I was like, what are we doing? I don't know. And then I accidentally kicked something over I was in a movie, as the security guard has his flashlight, and then he shines it underneath and gets almost to me before he stops, and then backs off. I'm like, oh my god. I was so relieved. I'm like, what's gonna happen? I'm in a public space. Nothing's I'm an adult. It's fine.
You're at home and you told your kids, don't sneak out at night.
Right. But to my knowledge, absolutely nothing happened. I think the crew stayed there to drink. So,
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
If I could just quickly, we were on high alert for the welcome sign, and we knew that maybe something was up because they had put cones.
Right.
Somebody had put cones, and so people were watching all of the time. Whenever anybody was going anywhere, they would drive by. And I forget exactly how it happened. How do we hear? But I mean, it really went
They
the
ran out.
sign is there! It looks like they're gonna film the sign! And I had I think I was going home the next day, or maybe even later that day. I was like, I know I'm gonna miss the sign. I feel like it's gonna be any time now. And I got to standing out there and seeing the welcome sign.
It was emotional.
It was so emotional. And we're back like in the bushes, you know, sort of down the street, and it's incredible. Like, but it was a weird filming, and when season 3 happened, we could tell why, because the sign really wasn't featured like it was in the original
It was just like
series.
some second unit guys. It was just like some second unit guys, and they were like, you're not supposed to be here. And we're like, we're not gonna get in your way, we'll stand to the side. So they're like, yeah, but you're gonna get us in trouble. Like, don't. And we're just in, you know, and then we thought more people were gonna come, and then they didn't. And we're like, oh, all right. We saw it, and I totally cried.
Oh yeah, because it was awesome. It's like a character in the show.
The sign when that was happening, it was super funny because it was just like this. I was on multiple text threads, and then I got like on all of them. It was like, oh, the sign's unveiled right now, everybody come here, and then like everyone just converted on it super fast.
With a tarp for a while, which is also kind of funny. Like, oh, what's going on? Like, why are they making such a big to-do about it? And then they like uncovered it and showed the shot and then took it away.
Yeah. How fast we all showed up.
Yeah, totally. It was like organized stalking.
It drive across both these towns in 20 minutes. It's not that.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. You know, everyone was like instantly there.
I think the final story that I have, and I mean, anyone else has a final story, was actually the very beginning. And when, like, David, we knew that they were going to be filming in the Valley. And so we're like, is David Lynch going to come to town and scout locations? And so I was kind of on the lookout. And then I went to Michigan for Christmas, and I get a text, David Lynch is at Tweeds. And I was like, God damn it. And that kind of continued. It was like every time I left town, there was a David Lynch sighting, and I was like, and he'd been today. Yeah. Then he'd been in town for like a week maybe before filming started. Everybody knew he was in town. He was going to the local restaurants, literally restaurants down the street from my house, and I would see it posted online, and I'm like, what? And I was just not going to see him, so I was just convinced I am never going to I'm never going to see David Lynch. Nope. And so on Labor Day, my friend Charlie got into town, and I went out for wine with him and this other guy. And we didn't know that it was the night before filming was starting. But we met for drinks at the Attic, which is upstairs at the Salish. And we were waiting to go up. We started talking to these other fans that were just there visiting for the sites that we just met in the lobby, and we were complaining, and I was just like, and so we were standing like right, if you guys know the Salish, like in front of where the store used to be. It's kind of like right in the middle of the lower level, and I'm like, I'm literally never gonna see David Lynch. I'm never. And then someone said, except there he is, and I was like, what? And we look over, and coming out of the dining room is David Lynch and Mark Frost walking out from dinner together. And we all react differently to things. I just froze, and like I was like Homer Simpson in the bushes. I was like, my friend Charlie, who's normally a super quiet guy, went, Mr. Lynch! And Charlie, if you see this, I'm really sorry for telling the story. And then you can just see the look on their faces. They're like, hey! But they were very nice, and they came over. But David came over and started shaking our hands. Mark Frost stepped aside. And we were like, what are you doing? Like, we want to shake your hand too. And he was like, oh, you do? Okay. And then all of a sudden, and I'm like taking this all in, and all of a sudden I see David Lynch is standing in front of me going, and I was like, oh, hi. So then we went upstairs, and
had many drinks and were just really dumb. So, any other last fun stories?
If I could just, I just like to thank, have thanked a million times the local people that live here that were so gracious about not only cluing us into things, but welcoming us up here into their community, into their homes, and I can't even imagine not have experienced this, but it wouldn't have happened without all of you being so amazing to us and sharing it with us, because you didn't have to. And I will be forever grateful, because it truly was one of the best things that, I mean, I have a bunch of kids and, you know, a husband and everything, but it was truly one of the best experiences I have ever had. It was really a dream. So thank you guys so much. What's some final words there?
No pressure, anyone who gets the mic last.
Well, let's go get a beer.